Craft breweries have taken off in the Baystate with more than 100 local companies on tap in Massachusetts. Not wanting to be left out, Springfield Technical Community College is now offering a professional brewing certification course. Carolee McGrath sat down with Assistant Vice President of Workforce Development to find out more about the opportunities in the field, as well as opportunities in other industries that also need skilled workers.
So we had just started offering a professional brewing certificate program. It's a non-credit training program that is a hybrid, which is a little different. And what that means is there are some components of the class itself that happens online through our Blackboard, our learning management system. And then throughout the training, it's about 10 weeks throughout the training, there are also a couple of in-person parts of this particular training. So the first day is the group gets together and they actually do tours of a few local breweries. That actually allow us to come, to learn about the business, to really kind of aspire the person to say, oh, what is it about brewing that we may or may not know? From there, that's the first session, and then the remaining sessions is really doing the homework and understanding the industry. What does it mean to be in brewing? Microbrewing especially is such a hot button right now. You get a lot of information, you get hands-on. The individual that teaches is a chemist, so it's not like someone coming in and saying, hey, I'm going to teach brewing. This is a person who's certified, who understands the science behind brewing, which is really important, which makes the most successful brews out there. So that's, we're in our year 2. We typically offer it twice a year. Right now, actually, we're about to start the fall session. Actually, starts tomorrow, this Saturday. And after that, we wait till the spring, because our New England winters are our New England winters. But the great thing about that is, again, most of it is online, with the exceptions of 3 in-person sites meetings, and that's at the brewing tours. That's on campus, on the STCC campus. We use a chemistry lab where we actually do some real chemistry to understand that piece of brewing. And then the last session is actually taking the test to become certified. And now there is an apprenticeship track for a master's brewing. And typically with apprenticeship programs, registered apprenticeship programs, there's a pre-apprenticeship component that people have to go through, and it's usually the educational piece before they can enter the actual apprenticeship. We were just awarded or designated as a pre-apprenticeship site, and this particular program meets all the criteria for an individual to go into an apprenticeship. So that's an exciting new chapter of this particular brewing training class at STCC.
Now, I understand the founder of Treehouse went to STIC.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about what you're hearing, from brewers about the need for skilled workers.
Sure. It's one of those skill sets that you say, well, the drinking side is the easy part. We all love a little microbrew, that's great. But the business side, what does it take to have an individual come in, sit in the industry, learn in the industry, and grow the industry? And this individual, who's the owner of Treehouse, a former STCC student, he's been nothing but involved with STCC, continues to be involved, and really is a story. He aspires individuals to say, you know what, it's an idea, I learned it, and I grew it, and now I'm sustaining it. And that's what workforce does. Yes, very successfully. Yeah. One day when we grow up, that's where we want to be.
Right.
And I think part of our workforce development trainings, brewing and others, that's what we try to put to the forefront. It's not just what is your next job, it's what is your career pathway. Sometimes people know what they want to do, and sometimes people have a skill set, they have no idea that it matches with certain industry. Right. Until you come in and say, take an introduction certification. Sometimes you have a person who hasn't been in school for a long while, and you get to a point in one's life and says, you know what, I've been doing this for, 15 years. I'm going to throw a number out there. And now I want to try something different. Where does one begin? Workforce development centers across all the community colleges actually offer that. If you look at any of their sites, it'll tell you, here are some different tracks or pathways that maybe might interest you. And sometimes that's all it takes. If you take a little initiative, do a little bit of homework, register to take a certification class. It may be 15 years since you've been in school, maybe high school, or maybe some college wasn't good for you back then, but now you're at a different point in your life, you want to kind of take another pathway. You're able to take a certification program and you say, you know what, I did well here. That confidence and that kind of I can do it mentality gets fostered in the workforce development training certificates. And I think I tell people all the time, I said, just give it a shot. And part of it is, what is it that you want to do? Sometimes you know, and sometimes you don't know. I think sometimes people want to be, I'll use healthcare as an example. Some people might want to be a phlebotomist, for example, or they might want to be a home health aide that draws blood. How do you know you want to do that? Do you understand that when you work with individuals, there are things, there's the interaction piece, there's the caring piece, there's the smell piece, there's the aesthetic piece of working with patients.
Right.
That's not cut for everyone. So how do you sample that without throwing your money into a degree program if that's what you want to do? But there's some people who don't know what they want to do. Try it. I call it a sample platter of a career pathway. Right. And if you like it, it could be done in a much shorter time. You might like it, you might go to the job, you might get to the job, a year later you say, you know, I really like this and I want to go to this next step at this career, this next job. STCC has this other degree program that kind of aligns with the certificate. I always tell people workforce development is just a different access point to career and education.
Right. Tell us a little bit about, I mean, you're talking about healthcare, the skills gap, and how you're working with different businesses, you know, to really fill those jobs. They're looking for skilled workers, and what are the hottest industries in Western Mass right now?
Well, we have a bunch of individuals that are getting ready to retire. I always tell people the retirement wave is coming, the retirement wave is coming, it's here. So the question becomes is, how do we fill the skills gap of people leaving when your pool of new people that you're feeding into these industries is smaller than the people leaving? And that's the issue we have, not just in Western Mass, it's nationwide. In Western Mass, that's very prevalent in healthcare. Advanced manufacturing, such as precision machining, is one of those examples, and culinary, obviously. Those three sectors have many opportunities, and in order to get some of them, sometimes you need a little bit more education, but workforce development in all the schools, STCC obviously, it has pathways to tap into any of those three, except culinary, but we always work very closely with Holyoke Community College. We're partnering community colleges, we do a lot of work together, and that is how we kind of say, well, this person might want to do this pathway, how do we help navigate this individual into making the decision that's right for them with the options that we have.
And when you're talking about the young kids, and there's not as many going into this field, how do you attract them? Like, is it good paying? What do you say to them to try to consider something a little bit different?
Sure. I think that's a couple steps. I think for me, in any industry, you want to express interest. I think senior year high school, it's too late.
Too late.
I really think you have to start planting seeds of information and career information early. And I'm talking about middle school, maybe sometimes high-end grade school. For example, advanced manufacturing. If we think about advanced manufacturing, some people think, what is advanced manufacturing? I didn't know what advanced manufacturing was until I started really diving into this area of my professional career. Think about this mug. Somewhere it's being produced. There's a machine producing this. Think about this coaster. Somewhere this machine is producing it. Think about your pen, your watch, things that we just take for granted every day. These are made at companies in the advanced manufacturing sector. I tell people sometimes it's just a matter of trying to understand. People think advanced manufacturing, they think line work. They think, oh, I'm on the floor, it's a dirty job, and it's so complete opposite from that. There's a lot of programming. There are a lot of technician jobs that are entry point jobs. I always tell people sometimes you can't start high in the job with regards to pay, but what you can do is you can start at a good rate and think about a year from now. Think about 2 years from now. How can you move from a $14 an hour job to perhaps $20 an hour job less than 2 years?
Yeah, for an 18-year-old, that's pretty good.
That's really good. Yeah. And sometimes if you take certificate training programs, again, if it's brand new, I always encourage people, take an introduction class or a certification class. They're usually 8 weeks or less, depending on the track. And it gives hands-on exposure to the machines, to the sector. We have subject matter experts, owners of local companies that are very invested with STCC. We bring them in, we introduce, and they tell their story. How did they start off? Right. It was just exposure, and I think that's really important. We always say, how do we create an exciting new entry point, and how do we fill the gap of the talent that's leaving? So new, and then train your incumbents on working those multi-million-dollar machines. Yes. That's a big issue. That's a big skills gap. That advanced manufacturing is one of the top three. And starting in January, we're actually rolling out a brand new advanced manufacturing portfolio that does that. We have an introduction. This is what the industry is. And then we have we need metrology. How do you measure things? Right. If you're good at that, then you'll be fine. If not, then how do you get good?